Hello, this is Jeff Mucci with RCR Wireless News, and we're here today with Philip Sorrells, who is Vice President of Strategic Marketing for the wireless group at CommScope. Philip, thanks for joining us.
Hey Jeff, thanks for having the time to spend with us. We always enjoy talking to our friends at RCR.
Well, we're getting ready for CTIA and CCA this next month, and I want to run through a few questions with you just to see what you have planned. So let's jump in by talking about what are some of the key trends you're seeing in the wireless market.
That's a great question. A lot of them are the same ones that we saw last year. They're every operator, no matter where we are in the world, every operator still is really struggling with how to monetize their investment, how to really monetize their investments in LTE in particular, and keep a close eye on the combination of subscriber growth, ARPU, and capital investment, and try to make sure that they've got a profitable business model going forward. Two big things that are happening that we still watched a lot last year, we still see really driving the industry, at least the part we participate in the RF path. Two big trends are still network modernization. Operators everywhere are still trying to add new technology, new frequencies, new capabilities to existing assets, and do that in a way that minimizes disruptions and maximizes value for their subscribers. And then, of course, the second big trend is initiatives that are aimed at just dragging out every potential Erlang of capacity out of every radio and every tower and every cell site to absolutely squeeze everything out of their existing assets without spending new capital. So those are really kind of the two big overarching things that are really driving everything that we're doing in the wireless group of CommScope.
Maybe talk a little bit about how you're addressing those challenges and other challenges that you're seeing in the market.
Well, we've developed again 5 key strategies, and I'll quickly run through those with you just as a reminder. They're not a lot different than what we did last year at CTIA, but we're just really putting some additional emphasis and meat behind them. On the outside ecosystem, cell sites, the macro environment, we are really positioning our network modernization platform of our combined enabling technologies of ultra-wideband antenna systems that cover, all the way down to 698 megahertz and all the way up to 960, and then on the flip side, the high band from 1710 up to 2.6 gigahertz. So antennas that have a lot of capability. So if you're not quite sure which frequencies you'll use in which application, you still have a pretty safe investment with that technology. The antennas also have the capability to provide independent optimization. So the optimization parameters for the existing 2G system, the existing 3G system, and the LTE system aren't always the same. So this technology really allows you to optimize all that. Of course, all that is being driven by the need for bands. That still is a big drive, and we'll see have a lot of discussions at CTIA about the upcoming auctions that are planned and how those new frequency bands can be used in their networks. We see a lot of operators that are fully now engaged in implementation of remote radio heads at the top of the tower or at the top of the building. We will be introducing again our new hybrid fiber feed direct system to help operators come up with a really solid, high quality, high reliability way of getting power and fiber optic signal up to those radio heads. All that's part of our network modernization strategy. Then also on the macro site, on capacity enhancements, we have launched a whole new initiative with interference mitigation filters. With all these new bands, you have a really big opportunities to have the transmit and the receive band of one operator to another operator interfere. And we have found a lot of really good custom applications where our team can go in and quickly design an interference mitigation filter, integrate that into a TMA or into a diplexer or some other piece of equipment that has to be on the cell side anyway, and use that to carve out that interferer. And every time we've done that, we've helped the operator get 5, 10 dB system performance back out of those sites. So a really important thing. Of course, our sector sculpting initiatives with our advanced antenna systems, our 3-beam antenna, our 6-sector antenna systems, our 5-beam antenna systems, our 9-beam antenna systems. Those are still very important tools and are being used pretty broadly now. Then in our DAS systems and our in-building systems, we're really in full push now with our ION-U platform. The ION-U platform lets us integrate and combine our low power and high power system for DAS. What we focus there is simplification. When we demonstrate our new ION-U platform, it becomes profoundly obvious that the tools that we put in to let a DAS system be built in a complex venue, that it's much easier to install the first time. It's a lot easier to install and update and troubleshoot, and then when, not if, but when additional capacity is added, that additional capacity can be added quickly, effectively, and at a minimum cost. So we're really pleased with what we've done so far with our ION-U platform. We'll also be talking again at CTIA about our newest platform for enterprise type applications, buildings, skyrise buildings, that type of application called ION-E, which we believe is really a whole next generation wireless platform that we think will really move the needle on how skyrise buildings, multi-story buildings that really need a multi-operator, multi-technology, multi-frequency kind of capability all coexist. At CTIA, we're going to be showing some of our newest concepts for what we call our Metro Cell initiative, which are outdoor mini macros or outdoor small cell applications. What you'll see at CTIA is some interesting concepts that we've come up with for camouflaging, for custom builds where we integrate the antenna, the radio, all that into one really low profile, easy to install, easy to get through zoning approvals type package. And we'll still be really pushing and talking about what it means to a backhaul network when you tighten up the RF patterns of those antennas, improve the link budget, and implement the enabling technology that we call Sentinel, which is a Class 4 backhaul antenna technology. So those are really the big 5 kind of key strategies that we are focusing on at CommScope.
And you talked about several of the initiatives you'll be announcing at CTI. Would you mind maybe taking a step back and just summarizing the things that you will be announcing at CTI?
Absolutely. Well, first off, we're going to announce an additional set of enablers in our PIM story. So we have worked on enabling the industry with low passive intermod solutions, technologies to help manage, troubleshoot, find, and resolve passive intermod issues for years. And most of that has been aimed at the macro environment. What we have found in the last 2 or 3 years is that because of the density inside venues and the higher level of power because of how many more sectors we're trying to cover inside venues, those PIM issues are starting to become relevant and prevalent in an indoor ecosystem. So at CTIA this year, we're going to be talking about and releasing our newest line of passive products aimed at in-building applications that have a PIM spec that's never been seen before in terms of passive intermod suppression in an in-building or an in-venue type of application. So that's one key thing. We also have a really neat idea about how a small cell or mini macro cell antenna system could look and act in the head net. And what we'll be showing at CTIA this year will be a new, what we call a quasi-omni antenna system, which is fundamentally 3 high-quality sector antennas that are phased together to operate like an omni, but unlike a standard off-the-shelf omni, this antenna provides the capability of up to 16 degrees of beam tilting. Now, in a dense urban environment, in an LTE ecosystem, it's really important to contain the RF energy as precisely as you can in the area that you want to, in the area that you want to cover. So this ability to use this kind of technology that's small, easy to get installed, but yet still has some elegance in terms of the RF pattern management, we think will be a big tool. And we're gonna demonstrate at CTIA. We're going to provide some of the case studies that we've have compiled over the last year, show that this small investment in just a little bit better antenna system makes a big impact on the performance of the HetNet. So we'll be talking about that quite a bit. We'll have our ION-E, our newest platform for enterprise type applications at CTIA. We'll also have our ION-U application for DAS systems for venues and venue applications. And last but not least, we'll be demoing our Andrews SiteRise standard interface concept. So we've talked about SiteRise in the past. At CTIA, we'll also be introducing to the North American customers and operators our concept for what we call the standard interface, which is really a breakout way of how the antenna to the remote radio head connection of the future we believe should look. So we'll also have that at CTIA this year.
Well, you're going to be busy, and we will definitely stop by and see you at CTIA. You mentioned earlier some of the unique capabilities of CommScope's DAS and small cell network. Let's come back and talk a little bit more about the details associated with your DAS and small cell offering that really differentiates you in the marketplace.
Well, first off, with our ION-U, our main issue with ION-U, our main goal was to develop a system that cut the opportunities for errors to be made by a significant amount. And so with the ION-U system, as an installer or a maintenance technician or whoever is responsible for upgrading or maintaining or owning that system, they have an online GUI that tells them precisely what is happening at every node. If a node goes bad, it gives a really clear indication of which node is in need of additional troubleshooting or repair if necessary. It allows some kind of intelligent capability of identifying where you have sector overlap or power management things that need to be done, turning down the power in one node to improve the performance of the nodes all around it. And probably most important, it's got some integration of tools that help identify, isolate, and then mitigate passive intermods. And those are all part of our new ION-U platform. And we believe that as the community out there sees that and sees the impact it has on that user interface and the ease of installation and ownership, we believe pretty confidently that we can take about 75% of the rework that has to be done. You know, doing things twice is not really the most effective way to do it. It's better to do it right the first time, and that's really where we've been this product initiative at. Is really how do we get that ease of implementation and ease of ownership down to something that can really be done right the first time and every time.
Well, let's close with talking about the future, and heterogeneous networks and HetNet has been a buzzword for what seems like 24 to 36 months, but how do you see the evolution of HetNet?
Well, you know, our point of view at CommScope is that HetNet requires a full complement of tools. And when you look across the entire ecosystem out there, if you get too focused on one specific application, then you kind of lose sight on how broad the toolkit needs to be. So I'm a proponent, for sure, of maximizing the capacity of your existing macro. And I think there's a lot of applications where a macro that's set up as a 3-sector site can take that one sector that's really pointed in the direction of the hot spot or the hottest area of traffic, and I think that things can be done to split that sector into a twin sector or into a 3-sector or into a 6-sector, and use that macro site again just to penetrate that capacity in that hotspot even more without adding in a new variable. So I think there's things that can be done on the macro to handle that. Once you move beyond that, then you get into the question about, well, is it smarter on an outdoor ecosystem to use let's say a 300 milliwatt pico and a relatively small antenna with let's say an omnidirectional or just a simple directional antenna pattern, and use, let's say, 10 of those? Or would it be better to use a slightly higher power, maybe 5 watts, and maybe install that in a way that you can use a more elegant antenna to do a little bit better gain management and a little bit better pattern management? And I'll call that, and again, I'm not trying to set a trend here, but I call that kind of a mini macro application, where it kind of looks like a macro in terms of the way it hands off to the rest of the network, and still operates in a smaller package with a smaller antenna height above the ground. So you wouldn't call it like a full macro, but kind of a mini macro. And some of that, I think, is also needs to really be considered before you go in, at least on the outside world, and make a full commitment to using a really smaller power, like a pico radio, 300 milliwatt pico radio or something in that nature. So there's all kinds of those zones. Then on the indoor application, it's really a question of what best suits that application. And our point of view is that there's 3 things that have to be considered when you look inside a building or a venue. Do you want it to be a system that can support multiple technologies quickly and with agility? So 2G is here for a long time yet, 3G is here for a long time yet, and LTE is just getting going. So for a long time, there's going to be a need to support all those technologies. Then, does it need to support multiple frequency bands? And I think everybody would say yes, it's got to support multiple frequency bands. And then the last one, does it need to support multiple operators? And if you're in an enterprise building, for example, and it's a multi-tenant building, then it's really going to be in the benefit of the building owner to be able to offer their tenants an indoor coverage system that provides AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile or Sprint, whatever the tenant is subscribed to. Now, if you take that all the way down to a smaller building, let's say a 5-story building that's owned by one company, their application needs may be different, and they may a solution like a Pico small cell might be great for them. That could be a great way to go about their indoor coverage. So what I see is that all these solutions are coming into the market. Probably the biggest challenge that we have, that I think we're going to have probably for the next 2 or 3 years, is not what the physical architecture of them look like, but more about what the management overhead is going to look like. How do all those different types of solutions get tied together into an ecosystem that the operator community can manage, can really manage, and have an outage here and move capacity, or have a capacity overload here and move capacity there. And no matter if it's a pico or a mini macro or a full-size macro or a sector on a macro, all that has to be really worked through, and how that whole management system comes together is going to be very important. SON has really started to get a lot of positive implementations, a lot of positive feedback that we're hearing in the industry about those things. So I think that's going to continue to drive a lot of how the HetNet actually comes together at the end of the day.
Well, Philip, I appreciate your time today. When we get together at CTIA, I do want to talk a little bit more about this management of the HetNet and these different piece parts, but let's save that to CTIA.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.